So today's shir was dedicated by Yeshua Shalom Atziel, Rabbi Yeshua Shalom Atziel. This is in honor of his father's Olav Shalom's Yortzeit, not Yortzeit. Actually, his father passed away a little over a month ago. Rabbi Shimon Agajan ben Binyamin. The Shloshim was just the other day. He passed away on Chavav Tevis. I think the shir is very appropriate for his neshama. Let this be his chus for his neshama, being that, as I hear, he was a person who took care of many synagogues, many shuls. He was the gabbai in the shul, took care of the shuls, charge of the shuls back in Iran. And today's class is all going to be about shuls. So that's a very big schus for his neshama. I also want the shir to be dedicated to my uncle, who everything is b'hashgacha pratis. I went to Eretz Yisroel for a visit, and in my plans was to visit my uncle. My uncle, my father's twin brother, he was an extraordinary person. And he fell ill a couple of months ago, not just a few months. And then when we were there, and I didn't even get a chance to go visit him yet, he passed away. Yeah. So Yitzchak ben Zion ben Reuven HaKoyen. May this be a schus to his neshama. He's known as Yisroel Wolf, a very, very, very great philanthropist. In the early 70s, I should say, people who knew him, I can say it was said about him was he taught the American Jews, the new generation, if we can say, in the United States, of Yidden how to give tzedakah. His amount, his ability, of his dedication, his devotion to helping other people was just went beyond. Just one, and everything was done in a way that no one knew. That was like crazy. I mean, people knew he was a big Baal tzedakah, but it wasn't like, tzedakah just for, causes where you can have your name on something, which is a very big schus. But it was these quiet causes. While we were sitting by the shiva, I just overheard a story. My father was relating that he went to meet. When my sister got engaged, he went to meet the family, and then someone said, "Oh, you're Yisroel Wolf's brother." He said, "Yeah, let me tell you a story about your brother." He said, I think it was him or a family member of his, got messed up in Israel with owing money to some undesirable group of people, which you don't want to owe them. You don't want to owe them money. And somehow my uncle found out about it, and he called him. Again, it's a complete stranger that he knew of, and he knew that he was in a predicament that was in a terrible, terrible state. And he called him, and he said, "Here is $800,000. And the guy looked at him like he's off the wall. And he said, "A father doesn't do this for a child." He said, "I know you need the money. Your life is in danger. Here's the money. I don't need it now. So I have it, and I don't need it now. Take it." So this is like talking about a person we're not dealing with over here, giving $1 million. We're talking about also in the early 70s, so $1 million then was like, to a private person who was in trouble. So we're talking about a level of kindness, a level of sensitivity, a level of caring that is just beyond. And when the diamonds fell, he lost his fortune, and he always struggled afterwards, but just an unbelievable human being. May this be a big schus for his neshama, for my uncle Itcha, be a big schus for him. And now we're ready to have the shir. Okay, so I came back from the Holy Land right now, and it's just magnificent. Every time I go, I'm just blown away at how the country is grown and developed and thriving and built up. It's so beautiful, Eretz Yisrael, because you got the old and the new. It's coming together. It's the most ancient civilization one of the oldest of the oldest, and at the same time, it's so recent because it was so desolate to about 100 years ago, and then everything it's nothing short than, I was to say, a modern day miracle. It's one of the greatest miracles to see the country thrive. And every time you go back, you see it's being built and built and built, and it's unbelievable. So it's exciting. And we took walking in the old city of Yerushalayim, and then actually this time I went into the areas that belong to us, but others think it doesn't belong to us. And I went on a tour where they took me into these homes where the people are buying back homes in the Arab Quarter and places like that. I have to say, I was terrified to walk around over there, but the one that was taking me was very confident. So, in any case, it's amazing, and we come up so close. We don't go up on the Harabayas, but I came up actually very, very close. This lady took us to one of the gates in the Arab Quarter that you go right up from there and you can see the Makam HaMikdash, and the closest I've ever been. And we're all excited about the third temple. We know that Beis HaMikdash is going to be rebuilt, Bekar of Mamish, and to be standing so close to that spot is really, really exciting. The question, however, is maybe we're even closer now than when I was standing right next to that spot. What do I mean by that? What does it mean that maybe we're standing now closer than then? Well, it's something you do in your daily routine, and we have no clue about how awesome it is that we can stand in such a place. But let me first preface this by first asking the question. We're expecting Mashiach to come any day. And today's class is a very unique class, by the way. I'm going to say things that are very unique. And the reason I think it has to be said right now is because whoever is a little sensitive can sense the tension that's in the world. It's powerful tension, and you see that the powers of Klippa, the powers of the impure, the powers of the unholy, are clamoring to stay alive, and they're fighting their little last battle. And you can see across the United States that certain things were done just in the last few weeks that are just an unbelievable display of the chutzpah of the klippa, of the unholy. And that is that, they're legalizing abortions in the 9th month. We're talking about absolute murder. It's unbelievable. Murder of maybe thousands and thousands of innocent children that are ready to be born. This is a murder, and it just occurred to me as I'm speaking to you right now, there's a pneumius to that. In addition to the fact that it's murder, but there's a pneumius to that. The baby of Mashiach is about to be born. The great Geula, which is a birth. And behind this whole fight, to fight against the Malchusay Shel Mashiach, Mashiach's kingdom, is to Chas v'Shalom commit abortion on the baby of the redemption, on the power of Mashiach Tzidkenu. That's really what they're fighting against. What you're seeing is just, because you realize that there's forces of that are represented in the spiritual forces in the realms above. They're going to lose because their time is over right now. But I do feel that we have to put an extra effort into counter the onslaught of the unholy with the powerful thrust of Kedusha. And that means getting out of the box. And getting out of the box is what I'm going to be doing tonight. I'm going to be saying things that might shock some of the listeners, but that's okay, because we're going to be living in times very, very soon that are going to shock the world. And this is a holy shock. So get ready for a holy shock. Put on your seatbelt and get ready to be shocked. It's okay to be shocked. I'm just going to share with you some really, really, really amazing things. What do you mean I'm going to share? I don't have inside information. I'm not a Navi. I would say the Lashon, I'm not a Navi, I'm not a Ben Navi. My father's a great guy. Really special Yid, but he's not a Navi. So I'm not a Navi. But I'm sharing with you words of tzaddikim. I'm going to share with you words of tzaddikim that for some reason didn't get out there enough, and I would like to share this. See, when we think about Mashiach's coming, the redemption, A lot of people believe that everybody has to move to Eretz Yisrael now. That the way Mashiach is going to come, and you have from time to time, you have these like WhatsApp that go out with some great Kabbalist, some Baba from Eretz Yisrael or someone, which is great, who say that everybody now must come. There's a danger for the Jews in America. Everybody must come from the whole world. That's great, but I'm still here. So I want to talk to the people that are still here. And do we have to worry about all these predictions that we have to go? And many people believe that the action, even if the Chas v'Shalom, there's no catastrophic, we're not Chas v'Shalom predicting any catastrophic things for the Yidden who live in the diaspora. Europe is on fire, that we know. And sadly, that Jews have to leave. But in America, Baruch Hashem, we're safe. The question is, however, there's another thing. Where is the action going to be? Is the action of the redemption going to take place in Eretz Yisrael? Or is where is ground zero? That's the question. What's ground zero of the redemption? Does it happen in Eretz Yisrael? Does it happen in Chutz Li'aretz? So most people have the idea that it's going to happen in Eretz Yisrael. Where's Mashiach going to reveal himself? Eretz Yisrael. Where's the Beis HaMikdash going to descend? Third Beis HaMikdash coming down from heaven. So I'm going to bring you the sources for that. Where is it going to come down? In Eretz Yisrael. Everybody's. I'm sure there's sources that might be quoted by others. I want to share with you the Lubavitcher Rebbe's view on this whole thing. I'm, as you know by now, a Chabad Chassid, and I'm very comfortable with the teachings of the Lubavitcher Rebbe and what he said. And regarding to this, he made some really, really extraordinary statements about where the action is going to be. And that's what I would like to share. Now, why am I so confident? Because we're talking about predictions of the future. So from all the tzaddikim that I've known, and I've known quite a few tzaddikim, the Rebbe is known that he made predictions of the future, and every single word that he said he was absolutely right. Sometimes it takes a little longer for it to be fulfilled, but I'll share with you just a few examples. In 1967, the world was terrified. The Jewish world was literally panicking because the Eretz Yisrael was being surrounded by legions that were promising the total decimation and destruction and driving the Jews into the Mediterranean Sea. Basically, one of the worst massacres of Jews that was going to be perpetrated, God forbid. Al pi derech hateva, there was no way to avoid it. And the drums of battle were heard, and everybody was in Israel. They were preparing body bags by the thousands. It was a frightening time. It was an extremely frightening time. The Lubavitcher Rebbe, and this is really amazing. I mean, if anybody wants to see a Navi in action, you want to see a Navi in action. I have no problem saying this is Nevuah, because this is what it was. It was clearly Nevuah. There's many levels. There's Ruach HaKodesh and there's Nevuah. And the Rebbe, interesting, in a talk, and I mentioned this a few weeks ago, we can stay Golostig if we want to stay Golostig and stay locked in our little puny little minds, believing that there will never be Nevuah again until the skies open up and there is Nevuah. But the Rambam says differently. What can I tell you? The Rambam says, Ein Safik in Pirush HaMishnayos in Sanhedrin, Ein Safik. No, I'm sorry. The Rambam says it not in Pirush HaMishnayos. The Rambam says it in his Igeres HaTeiman. Ein some Safik, there is no doubt. Shechazaras HaNevuah hu he Hakdamas HaMashiach. Those are the words of the Rambam. There's no doubt that the return of prophecy is an introduction to Mashiach. That means that the time before Mashiach comes, and this everybody has to agree, Mikatan vad gadol, from the small to the great, that we're living today in the pre-era before Mashiach comes. Everybody is maskim to that. But it says that there's going to be a turn of Nevuah. And the Rebbe then spoken, Parsha Shoftim, Tafshinun Aleph, Mar Shabbos Ofruf, the Lubavitcher Rebbe then spoke that began with the Baal Shem Tov. And he proves that the Baal Shem Tov was a Navi. Because when it says in Chazal that when this and these people, Nevi'im, they stop being Nevi'im, he's Medayik, the Gemara's words are very, very, the Gemara uses the words over there. It doesn't say Batla. Batla means it was stopped. Nistalka means it departed. Departed means there was a lack of, there's no connection, there's no connectivity. It's like when you get your phone and there's no connection, you have no Wi-Fi connection. Does that mean you throw your phone in the garbage? No, you'll get to a different place. There will be a Wi-Fi, you'll get better reception, it'll connect. So the Jewish people, we had Wi-Fi connection directly to God, that's Nevi'im. And then in the Galus, it gets disconnected. But before Mashiach comes, it comes back. So he proves over there that the Baal Shem Tov, and he brings it not even from his own, he brings it from the Zayda, the Tzemach Tzedek, who speaks about the Baal Shem Tov and the Magid, like they saw across the world. And it's all the Talmidei Baal Shem Tov, not just, it was across all the Talmidei Baal Shem Tov. The Chayza from Lublin is called the Chayza because you can see across the world like I can see you when you're 4 feet away from me. And these were tzaddikim that had a vision. So he says this vision is already the beginning of Chazaras HaNevuah. So the Rebbe says something about himself, that there is a Navi in the generation. You can look it up. He even says that we should get everybody to connect to the Navi of the generation. The people need to know that there's someone you can turn to for advice and questions regarding to all matters. In any case, so 1967, the Rebbe stood by a public. We're not talking about something he's saying to someone and then you can say, I didn't say and I didn't mean. Standing publicly, and there's a video of it, where he's talking at the Lag Bomer parade, in Chabad, by the Lubavitch, there's a Lag Bomer parade. The Rebbe standing outside and saying loud and clear and amazing words that there's going to be in a few days, there's going to be an unbelievable, miraculous nitzachon for the Jewish people. There's going to be a victory like the world, like the world has never seen. And there were then, in that time, the Rebbe then told all people that asked him, all the yeshiva bachrim, a lot of American boys learning there, no one should come home. They were terrified. Parents wanted to bring home. Many of the parents were Holocaust survivors. They were terrified. No, all kids have to stay. Chas v'shalom. What happens if you're talking about matters of life and death? If you do not have certainty from the Eibishter telling you, like a Navi, you can't take responsibility. It was a great Rebbe then, actually left, ran away from Eretz Yisroel. The Lubavitcher Rebbe then said about this tzaddik, he said, him I can't have any tainus on. He lost so many of his family in the Holocaust. He says that, he doesn't want Chas v'Shalom around too. When he rebuilt a little bit of a mishpacha after the Holocaust, after his whole family being decimated, he can't have tainus on. But the Rebbe then spoke, and then we saw an unbelievable thing. Didn't make any sense. Militarily didn't make any sense. Yet he came out correct. Then, by the Persian Gulf War, again there was a fear of gas, of missiles, what were they called? His missiles? No, what were they called? His missiles? No, his missiles that he was sending. No, what were they called? Scuds. On the Scud missiles that Saddam Hussein was promising that he would send over to Israel, which he did, but we didn't know if it was going to have Chas v'Shalom any gas. And again, the Lubavitcher Rebbe spoke very strongly for like a couple of weeks, 2 months I think before that, telling everybody not to be afraid. Eretz Yisrael is the safest place. It's all going to be good, and so on and so forth. You don't need any masks. No one should take masks. And again, how can you tell people not to take masks? You don't know unless you know. And again, the Rebbe was 100% right. So these are just 2 stories, but there is tons and tons and tons. Another one, even not necessarily talking about an event, but the Rebbe warned after 1967, when they were going to do any kind of land for peace exchanges. The Rebbe cried his neshama out, Shabbos after Shabbos, speaking loudly, or any farbrengen, that chas v'shalom they shouldn't do it. Because if we do something like that, we're setting the stage, which will never ever end, because we're giving an appetite to the Arabs. The more you will give them, the more you will want. So land for peace does not work. And it has been proven, and it led to the initial signature of Camp David, which was a return of so much land. created the whole Palestinian situation with all the terrorist attacks. And then it led to Oslo, which turned out to be one of the greatest devastations. And then it led later to Hamas, to the return of giving back Gaza, which we know is today literally the greatest menace against Eretz Yisrael. Is when we had Gush Katif, we had that whole area, and not what it turned into. It turned into a chas v'shalom, a territory where all kinds of terrorist activities are being perpetrated against Eretz Yisrael. So we see that the tzaddik sees, he knows, he has inside information that me and you don't know. And therefore, I have no shadow of a doubt, and I'm willing to, I don't have any money to bet, but I would bet everything I have on this, that what the Rebbe says is going to happen exactly like he says, without a shadow of a doubt. So regarding the future redemption, which was particularly his subject, here is some really, really, really exciting things. And it's connected to this week's parsha, because in this week's parsha it says, "Va'asu li migdash v'shachanti b'seichel." You should make for me a beis hamikdash, and I will dwell amongst them. So we have a mitzvah to build for God a sanctuary. Where do we make that sanctuary? Well, we started making the sanctuary in the Midbar, which was a mobile home. Then we traveled to Eretz Yisrael, and we built a few semi-temporary structures, meaning they weren't semi-permanent structures. It was a mishkan, a little bit more like a house, mishkan Shiloh, Noiv, and Givon. Finally, we came to what's called the Beis HaBechira, and we built a Beis HaMikdash, and that's the permanent structure where the Eibishter dwells. For how long? La'ad u'lenetzach netzachim. We had the first temple was destroyed, second temple, but we're waiting for the third Beis HaMikdash, which is going to be the ultimate and final and complete resting of the Shekhinah, where the Eibishter is going to be forever. Fine. What's with the time of exile? What's during the time of Golus? Simply, we can't do this mitzvah. We can't start now, even now, start going up there and building a Beis HaMikdash. We need Mashiach to be here. It has to be done al pi navi. We need to have the authority to do so. We can't do that now. But let's take a look at what the Gemara says in Masechtas Megillah. There's a fascinating passage in the Gemara Masechtas Megillah, Daf Chav Tes, Amid Aleph. The Gemara says like this. Let's start before we start the Gemara. There's a pasuk in Yecheskel Perek Yud Aleph. L'chein amoir pasuk tezayin l'chein amoir. So therefore say Koyam Hashem Alekim. So says Hashem Alekim. Ki erchaktim ba'goyim. Even if I've distanced the Jewish people amongst the nations, v'chiafitzoyim ba'arotzoyim, and I've scattered them in the lands. Ve'eyi lohem lemigdash ma'at. I will be for them for a small Beis HaMikdash. Ba'arotzois asher bo'u sham, in the lands that they have come over there. The Eibishter promises that I will be for the Jewish people a small Mikdash. Says the Metzudais. What does that mean? Metzudais David. Hoyel va'omrim she'anshe agolis se'ela lo yashuva li'olam li'aretz. Here we are, I'm sorry. Hoyel va'omrim she'lo yashgiach behem. Since they say that Hashem will not has forsaken them, that Hashem says, I'm not watching over them. Amor lahem, say to them, Koyam Hashem, so says Hashem, Im ki herchaktim, even though I have distanced them, mimigdashi, from my Beis HaMikdash, me artzam, and from their land, liyos goylim, that they should go to exile, the im ki pizartim ba'artzoi sa'amim, and even though I have scattered them in the lands of the nations, from my oversight, they have not been distanced, because in the lands that they have come in over there, I will be for them for a small Beis HaMikdash. What does that mean? The Metzudai says, Ashresh Chinasi bebate haknesiyoi shalahem. I will make my Shechina, my divine presence, dwell in their Beis HaKnesses. Ve'im ki rachaku min migdashai, even though they've been distant from my Beis HaMikdash, Shu HaMikdash HaGodol, because the Merdak the Metzudesh wants to explain what does it mean, Migdash Ma'at, small Beis HaMikdash. So he says, even though they've been distant from the big Migdash, Beis HaMikdash HaGodol, Asher B'Yerushalayim, Yilem B'Makoyim HaMikdash Ma'at, so you're going to have in its place a small Beis HaMikdash. There's Migdash Godol, Migdash Ma'at. That means wherever the Jewish people are, we have a small Beis HaMikdash, Rashi says, and Targum Yonason. What does it mean? The Hava is Ben Yusuf Barbinom. Hold on. No. Here it is. The Ahava line, I will give them Bate Knishta. I will give them a Beis HaKnesses, a shul. Tinyan LaBeis Migdasha. Secondary to the Beis HaMikdash. Rashi brings that over here. Labate Knishta the Inon Yasvin, that the Beis HaMikdash where the Jews are. Tanyan LaBeis Migdasha. It is a secondary place to the Beis HaMikdash. So the small Beis HaKnesses, the individual shuls that the Jewish people have in exile, is a secondary place to the Beis HaMikdash. And that's the minig Migdash Ma'at. So do we have a Beis HaMikdash today? Yes. We have a Beis HaMikdash today in every shul, where people study Torah, every yeshiva, every shul where people come to daven, every place that is designated for worship, for serving Hashem, is a small Beis HaMikdash. What does that mean? It has Kedushas HaMikdash. Not the same level of Kedushas HaMikdash like the Beis HaMikdash. It has a little Kedushas HaMikdash. Why? Because the Shechina is there. The Eyelahem, I will dwell my Shechina over there, as the Metzudah says. So here's the Gemara. This is a Gemara, Masechtas Megillah, Daf Chav Tes. The Gemara says, "Ve'elam lamigdash ma'at." Amar Rabbi Yitzchak. Rabbi Yitzchak says, "Elu bate knisiyos ubate midrasha shebebavel." These are all the shuls in Bavel. He doesn't mean only Bavel; he means wherever the Jews are. But in those days, they were living in Bavel, in Babylonia. So he says all the shuls, all the Beis HaKnesses, the place where people gather to daven, and Bate Medrash is the study hall. So the Bate Knesiyos and Bate Medrasha Shebe Bavel, we fulfill the mitzvah in a sense of Vasili Migdash. We can't make the grand Beis HaMikdash, but we can make a small Beis HaMikdash. So every time you support your local synagogue, you're actually doing the mitzvah of Vasili Migdash. Make for me a Beis HaMikdash. Reb Elazar Amar. That's Reb Yitzchak. Reb Elazar says, Zeh Beis Rabbeinu Shebebavel. It's not talking about all the shuls. It's talking about one particular shul. The house of Rabbeinu, of our teacher in Bavel. Who is the teacher that we're talking about? The teacher of all the Jewish people. The one who's the teacher of the entire generation. Who is that? Rashi says, Beis Rabbeinu, Rav. Rabbi Elazar was a Talmud of Rav. So Rav, who's actually, we're going to see later, his name is Rab Abba. But he was called Rav. The Gemara says in Masech, the Rashbam says in Masech Pesachim. I will tell you what it is. The Rashbam says in Masech Pesachim, over here, Daf Kuf Yotes Amid Beis, La Abba, La Rav. Hold on over here. Abba Kach Shemoy Shel Rav. This is the name of Rav. Elo B'Kavod Koder Moisei Rav B'Bavel. In Bavel they call him Rav. Rav means teacher. K'moy Shakoylin L'Rebbe Yehuda Anasi Be'eretz Yisroel. Rabbeinu. Rabbi Yehuda Anasi in Eretz Yisroel, who was Rav's teacher. Rabbi Yehuda Anasi, the author of the Mishnah. He's referred to in general as either Rabbeinu HaKadosh, or he's referred to as Rebbe, all over. When the Jews, when after Rabbeinu HaKadosh passed away, that was in Eretz Yisrael. The next generation is already in Bavel, so they went down a notch. And therefore he couldn't be called anymore Rebbe, but he's called Rav, without the Yud. In Chassidus it explains the difference between the two. But so therefore, when it says over here, Beis Rabbeinu, who is the Rabbeinu that we're talking about, or Rabbi Elazar is referring to? If you look in Rambam, when the Rambam says the Seder of Mesiras HaTorah, how the Torah was given over in the beginning of Rambam, an introduction, he tells you who the students of Rav were. And amongst the students of Rav, you have Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Yitzchak, all these students of Rav. So Rabbi Lazar says, what's the Migdash Ma'at? When it says, Ve'eyalahem, I will be for them for a small sanctuary in their lands of exile. It's talking about particularly Beis Rabbeinu Shebabavel. Amazing. So it seems there was an argument. Seems to be an argument. Now we don't have to say it's an argument. Says the Lubavitcher Rebbe, we don't have to say it's an argument. They both agree to each other. So Rabbi Lazar agrees to Rabbi Yitzchak that every shul in the diaspora, across the world, in all the continents, every shul is a Beis HaMikdash, is Mikdash Ma'at. Everybody agrees to that. What is Rabbi Lazar saying then? Beis Rabbeinu Shebabavel. What Rabbi Lazar means that within the Beis HaMikdash there is levels. There is the ordinary Beis HaMikdash, which is every shul and every yeshiva. And then there is one spectacular one, in which is the Iker Migdash Ma'at of the Jewish people, and that is where Beis Rabbeinu, the house of Rabbeinu, Rav. Now this idea, why Dafka? What makes that house so special that it becomes the Dafka? In other words, there's various different levels. There is the Migdash Ma'at of every shul, and there is a unique Migdash Ma'at, one special one, and that's the house of Rav in Bavel. What's the reason for that? So there's two explanations. Number one, the Gemara says in Masechtas Brachos, what makes Beis Rabbeinu Shebabavel special? So the Gemara says in Masechtas Brachos as follows. Daf Ches, Amud Aleph. My dechsiv, what is it that it says in the pasuk? Oyev Hashem Sharei Tzion. The Eibishter loves the gates of Tzion. Mikol Mishkanos Yaakov, from all the dwellings of Yaakov. The pasuk Tehillim in Psalms. God likes the gates of Tzion from all the Mishkanos Yaakov. That means there's one particular place that Hashem loves from the other dwellings of Jacob. What is that? So Rav Chisda says, Oyev Hashem she'orem amotzuyonim b'halacha. Hashem likes those places which are dedicated to the study of Torah to bring about the final halacha. The place where people develop halacha. Halacha, as you know, gets developed by learning, by comparing different mishnahs and different things and doing a comparative analysis and questions and answers and so on and so forth, like kind of Talmudic study. But Talmudic study, sometimes there is a Talmudic study which is just for pilpul, just because you want to share, you like the excitement of the learning itself. There's no destiny; it's just the journey itself is important. And there's one kind of study, but there's another type of a study where, in that place, it's geared towards coming to the conclusion of what is the halacha. So when it says Sharei Tzion, the Gemara is darshaning Sharei Tzion, referring to the gates. So the Marsha explains what's the connection Sharei Tzion to Shiarim Etzianim B'Halacha. What is the connection? So the Marsha says because Shar is where a Shar is referring to a Beis Din. In every city you had the town elders, and where did they sit? They sat by the entrance of the city. They had a certain Shar, and they were the ones that decided all the matters regards to practical behavior, law, and so on and so forth. In the city, you would go to the elders of the town, and where did they sit? They sat by the gate. So in this case too, those who decide hayra'ah, that's the Marsha says, those who give hayra'ah directions, la'anshe ya'ir, to the people of the city. So what is Rabbeinu Rav? Rav was the highest halachic authority of his time. He was the great Torah scholar of his time. And that is the reason why the Eibishter dwells over there. What's the connection of the Eibishter dwelling dafka in a place that's mitzuyanim b'halacha? So the Marsha associates over here, like you see in the Beis HaMikdash. We have to look in the Beis HaMikdash. Where did the Eibishter dwell? In the Beis HaMikdash in Jerusalem, Yerushalayim. What was there in the Beis HaMikdash? Beis HaMikdash was not only a place for sacrifices. It wasn't only a place for deep, elevated prayer and davening. Beis HaMikdash was also a place, Kimi Tzion Teitzei Torah, and Marav Tzion came Torah, the great Sanhedrin, the deciders of halacha. They were the ones who had their high court sitting in a room connected to the Beis HaMikdash, which half the room was holy, half the room wasn't, but it was part of the Beis HaMikdash. Where the Shekhinah is, we pray, conveying to the Shekhinah our desires and our wants. That's what prayer is. But it's a relationship. The Shekhinah herself, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Eibishter, wants from us something also. He wants to share with us what's in his heart, what he desires and what he wants. And that's halacha, that's Torah. What's Torah? We get to know what God wants. Where does Hashem communicate that? In his home. He has his people who to them Hashem enlightens their mind. Now, even though when you're learning Torah, you have to use your own human thinking, your own brain, but you have to have siyata d'shmaya. If you don't have special divine assistance, you can't come to halacha. So the Sanhedrin had special siyata d'shmaya, special divine assistance, because they were sitting in the Beis HaMikdash, where over there the Eibishter, the Shekhinah dwells. And he gave them that extra ability to be able to come to the truth when they're paskening halacha. So just like it is in regards to the big Beis HaMikdash, that where is the Eibishter dwelling, where there is the Sanhedrin, so the same way, the same thing applies also for the time of the exile. Where will the Shekhinah go? Where halacha is being studied. So the Shekhinah goes to all shuls, like we said earlier. But amongst all shuls, he dwells particularly where they learn halacha. And particularly to the great rabbi, the great scholar, who is the one who is in charge of leading the Jewish people and giving them the guidance of ultimate halacha. And that's who? That's Rabbeinu Shebebavel. And that's why the Eibishter dwell. That's why Rabbi Lazar says, where is the primary residence of the Eibishter in what's the main Beis HaMikdash? What's the main Beis HaMikdash? Mikdash Ma'at is Beis Rabbeinu Shebebavel. And actually the Gemara says, V'hainid Omer Reb Chia Baram, again quoting, continuing the Gemara Masechtas Brachos, Mishmei De'ula, Miyoim Shechara Beis HaMikdash, from the day the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, Ein Lo L'Kadosh Baruch Hu Ba'olamai Ela Arba Ame Shel Halacha. The Eibishter doesn't have in his world any other place, only 4 cubits of halacha. Where does God dwell? Like a bird that doesn't have he needs a nest. Where's the nest of HaKadosh Baruch Hu? The nest of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, of the Eibishter, is where there's Arba Ame Shel Halacha. By the way, comes Abaya, and Abaya says, when I heard that, I used to study Torah in my house and go to shul only for davening. But when I heard this, that the main Shekhinah dwells where people study halacha, I switched and I started to go to shul to learn as well, so that the shul, the place where I daven, should also be the place where I study halacha. So therefore we'll have an extra presence of divine, of Shekhinah over there. So obviously the prayer is also far more acceptable and more powerful if it's done in the place where the Shekhinah is. Fine. This is what the Gemara says in Masechtas Brachos. Okay, so now we have one explanation on the idea of why Beis Rabbeinu Shebebavel stands out, because it's a place that studies halacha. But there's another Indian as well. There's another Indian as well of why Beis Rabbeinu Shebebavel is the main Migdash, the main Beis HaMikdash. But we're going to get to that in a moment. So hold that for a moment. We're going to get to that in a moment. But first, this whole concept and idea that there is different levels of Migdash, Migdash Ma'at. We have, of course, the Beis HaMikdash, the future Beis HaMikdash, or Beis HaMikdashes that we had in Yerushalayim. But amongst the concept that there is Migdash Ma'at, they're not all the same. There is the ordinary Beis HaMikdash in Bavel, and there is a unique Beis HaMikdash in Bavel. So this idea will further be understood by analyzing something else the Gemara says in Masechtas Megillah. Here we'll hear this amazing thing. Why is the Beis HaMikdash a Beis HaMikdash? Why is the Beis HaMikdash special? Because the Shekhinah dwells there. So here the Gemara is talking about the keli, the vessel. What's the vessel? The Mikdash. That's what the Gemara talks about in Masechtas Megillah. But a little bit higher up, the Gemara talks about the oil or the energy as well. Because the Gemara says as follows. Tanya Reb Shimon ben Yoichi Oimer. Reb Shimon ben Yoichi says, again, this is the Gemara Mesechtes Megillah Daf Chav Tes. I encourage everybody to learn it yourself. So you don't think I'm making this stuff up. Omer Rebbe, he says over there, Bo yirei kama chavivin Yisroel lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. See how precious Yidden are to the Eibishter. Shebechol makom shegolu shchina imahim. Wherever the Jewish people went to exile, the Shechina is with them. Golu leMitzrayim, we went to Egypt, Shechina imahim. The Shechina was with them. Shanemar hanigna ligniglesi lebeis avicha. In Shmuel Aleph, haven't I been revealed to your father's house? B'yoisam b'Mitzrayim, when we were still in Egypt. Referring to the Shechina revealing himself during the time when the Yidden were in Mitzrayim. Galu leBavel Shechina imam, brings a pasuk. Laman chem shalachti Bavela. For your sake, I was sent to Bavel. Va'af kishem asidim li'goyel Shechina imam. And when they're going to be redeemed, the Shechina is also with them. Okay, that's important for later. But Al Kapanim, it says the Shechina is with the Jewish people. Okay, that's nice. What's the coolest thing about our sages? They ask the best questions. And what's the next question the Gemara says? Okay, the Shechina, because you see, the Chachamim, when they heard that the Shechina is with the Jewish people, they took it for real, not some whatever. It's real. If that's the case, give me the address. Where is the Shechina? Oh, so first of all, in order to understand the next piece of Gemara, let's understand the Marsha explains. When we say the Shechina is somewhere, we mean more than just God being somewhere. God is everywhere. So the Marsha says, an interesting Marsha, he says Shechina means, the Shechina Ima means Gilui Shechina. There is a place where the Shechina is behis galos. It reveals itself, so you can sense the Shechina in that place. Obviously, depending on the person, different levels of sensing. The holier a person is, the more refined, they can feel more. But the Shechina reveals itself in a certain place. His galos of Shechina is in a certain makayim miyuchad, a special place where the Shechina is. So comes Abaya, and Abaya says, the Gemara asks on its own, Bebavel hecha, in Bavel, where is the Shechina? Amar Abaya says, Bebei knishta the hutzal. Go around the corner. There's a shul over there. Take a left and make a turn. Maybe you'll find parking. Pull in over there. There's a shul called Beit Knishta, a shul of hutzal. Go in over there. That's where the Shechina is. I love the way that you can point to a physical address and say, yeah, there's a lot of shuls in the neighborhood. There's one called the Beis HaKnesses of hutzal. That's where the Shechina is. What is Hutzal? Hutzal is as follows. It's a shul next to Naharda. It's a town. Hutzal is a town, a small little village next to the city of Naharda, which was one of the big cities, which is right next to where Ezra had his shul. Ezra HaSofer. So that's what it says in the Aruch. The Aruch says here, hold on, Kenushta de Hutzal kroiva lebeis hamedrash al Ezra HaSofer. Lamata men Naharda. It's lower down than Naharda. Okay. That's one place where the Shechina is. Then Abaya says, Ubebei knishta de Shaf v'Yosef. It's also in another shul. In a shul of Shaf v'Yosef. Interesting name of a shul. Shaf v'Yosef. That's the shul. So what is Shaf? What's that shul? So Rashi says, what's the Shaf v'Yosef? Ubana Yechonya. It's an ancient shul in Bavel that Yechonya built. Yechonya was the first ones driven out. We mentioned in the Megillah Sesta. Tonight is Mishanech T'Sar the Marbim B'Simcha. Beginning to think already about Purim. So Ashahegla, which talks about how Mordechai was driven out of Yerushalayim together with Yechonya. Okay? You see, so when Yechonya left Yerushalayim, he built a shul in Bavel. Visayatoy and his friends, but they built it with something very special. They had such a love for Eretz Yisrael. So when they were driven out of Eretz Yisrael, they took along with them stones from Jerusalem. Me'avonim v'ofar sheheviyim mohem bigalusan. From stones and sand that they brought with them into the exile. L'kayem ashenemar, to fulfill what it says. Kiratzu avadecha es avoneha. Your servants desire, they want its stones. Yidden had such a love for Eretz Yisrael that when they had to leave, they brought along stones along with it so they can build a shul with stones from Eretz Yisrael. So that's what Rashi says. Rashi over here says these are stones from Eretz Yisrael. Rashi in Masechtas Rosh Hashanah, let's get a little, here this is a Megillah. Rashi in Masechtas Rosh Hashanah says, the Shavi Yosef, Makayim, it's a place. Why is it called Shavi Yosef? So Rashi says, again, this is Masechtas Rosh Hashanah, Daf Chav Daled Amud Beis. Shavi Yosef means it was destroyed and it was rebuilt again. So it's an ancient shul. It was built in the beginning of Kolos Bavel. When Abaya was talking about it, it's already 500 years later. More than 500 years. Abaya is it's about 600 years later. Because Abaya is after destruction of the second Beis Hamikdash. This is the beginning of Golos Bavel. The Beis Hamikdash stood for 420 years, plus 70 years. So you got already over 500 years, and Abaya is even later, probably 100 years later or more. So you're talking about 650. So that shul was once there, it was destroyed, and was rebuilt again. Shachara v'chazar v'nivna. V'tamid ha'isa shechina metzuya sham. That's a new thing we just learned from here, that the Shechina was always present in that shul. V'yachanya v'galusai banuhu. And Yachanya built it. Shenasu imayim me'avne Yerushalayim. See, it gets better. That's why you're always supposed to look up sources. If you learn without sources, it's no good. So what does it say? What does Rashi add in Masechtas Rosh Hashanah? It's not Stam that had stones from Eretz Yisrael. It was stones from Yerushalayim. V'aleim nemar. Okay, so that's that shul. Shafi Yosef shul. The Gemara actually says in Masechtas Rosh Hashanah that Rav, who's Rabbeinu, it's not his shul. Rav has another shul. But Rav and Shmuel and who else and someone else, whenever they were there, they would go into daven in their shul. The Shafi Yosef shul. But let me share with you what the Aruch says. The Aruch is like a dictionary, but it was written by one of the Rishonim. So what does he say on this thing? Yisaduhu ma'avanim va'afar. Now we have it. We take it to the next stage. First we said it was stones from Eretz Yisrael. Then we upgraded it to stones of Yerushalayim. And now we upgraded even more. It's actually stones from the Beis Hamikdash. Yisaduhu ma'avanim va'afar da'asayo b'nerish mi Beis Hamikdash. These were mamash stones of the Beis Hamikdash. And the Aruch gives us a different explanation. Why is it called Shaf v'Yosef? Shaf means it actually flew. It traveled. The Yosef and it settled. Basically what that means is, when the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, the spiritual Beis Hamikdash, connecting to these physical stones, made its way, traveled from Yerushalayim, and it came to this shul in Nahardai. Shaf, it floated, the Yosef, and it settled into the shul. So you have two shuls that are pointed out to mean the main places where the Shechina is during the time of exile. Beis HaKnesses is the Hutzal next to Ezra HaSefer Shul, and Beis HaKnesses is for Shavia. Why two? So the Gemara says, so the Gemara continues, here going back to the Gemara in Masechtas Megillah, Loi Tema Hacha V'Hacha. Don't say here and here. Ela Zimnin Hacha V'Zimnin Hacha. Not here and here. It can't be. The Shechina is not in two places. Sometimes here and sometimes here. Why? Because there needs to be one main place, just like the Beis Hamikdash. There weren't two Beis Hamikdashes. There's only allowed to be one Beis Hamikdash. So in the Zman HaGolus too, even though there is this pashtus of the Shechina, the spreading out of the light of the Shechina is what? In every shul. And there's a little presence of Shechina in every little shtibel across the world. But there is one main residence of where the Shechina is, And where is that? So that's why the Gemara says, at times it was the shul of Hutzal, at times it was the shul of Shafi Yosef. That's the main residence of the Shekhinah. Now, so what do we see from here? It's clear from the Gemara that even though Shekhinah is imahim in general with the Jewish people, there's one particular designated place that the Shekhinah dwells. So we understand as follows, that corresponding to the dwelling of the Shekhinah, the place where the Shekhinah dwells, that place is called Migdash. That's the Beis HaMikdash. So that leads us to say that in the Migdash Ma'at, there is levels of Migdash Ma'at. There is Migdash Ma'at Ma'at. It's just very, very little Migdash, but it is Migdash. And then there is Migdash Ma'at. It's the primary Migdash Ma'at. It's this primary small Beis HaMikdash. And it goes so far to say that the Beis HaMikdash from Eretz Yisroel has departed its place and it moves over into that place, and that is the Beis HaMikdash during the time of Galus. Powerful stuff. Now, I told you I would come back for a second reason of why Beis Rabbeinu Shebebavel, the house of Rav of Bavel, is considered the main Beis HaMikdash. From here we see already there's various different levels of Beis HaMikdash. And earlier there I told you the reason is because that's where Hayra goes out, that's where Torah is taught. But there's another thing over here. Why does the Shekhinah come in exile? The Shekhinah didn't sin. We sin, so we have to go to exile. Why does the Shekhinah go to exile? So when you take a look in the Gemara says clearly why the Shekhinah goes in exile. Tanya Reb Shimon bar Yochai, Reb Shimon bar Yochai says, Kama chavivin Yisroel. The Jewish people are so chaviv. The Eibishter, the Jewish people, the Eibishter loves the Jewish people. It's inseparable. The Shekhinah cannot separate from us. She's our mother. And where our mother travels, where the child goes, the mother goes along. The Shekhinah comes along to Galus. Therefore, it would only make sense that the headquarters of the Jewish people, that's where the Shekhinah goes. Meaning to say like this, why was the Beis HaMikdash the place where the Shekhinah dwelled? You can look at it, but the question is, what comes first, the chicken before the egg or the egg before the chicken? Goes back to that question. Why is the Beis HaMikdash the place where the Shekhinah is? Because the Jewish people come there. It's one central location where everybody comes. Sfardim, Ashkenazim, Persian Jews, Yemenite Jews, German Jews, Polish Jews, Hungarian Jews, Chassidic Yidden, Litvish Jews, right? Every type of Jews, this kind of Jews, and that, all Jews. Like this, everybody has their own minyan. Everybody davens in their own shul where they're comfortable. You should daven in your shul where you're comfortable because you have your minhagim, you have your conduct. You should daven in a place that davens your nusach, and where you feel comfortable. There's no mitzvah to be irritated in a shul. I was in Eretz Yisrael and I went to daven in a shul. I couldn't find the siddur. I daven nusach hariyah. I was so irritated. I'm trying to daven that siddur. I knew there is. I just couldn't. Till I was able to find it, was a ganze avodah. Anyways, you feel comfortable davening in a shul that has your siddur, your nusach. But the Beis HaMikdash is central location. It's Grand Central Station. All Jews, it's going to be really interesting to see how all that's going to go down. When you have every Yid and every type of Jew, different minhagim, how it's going to accommodate everybody, I have no clue. But Seif Kol Seif, that's one of the miracles of the days of Mashiach. Beis HaMikdash is central location. Since all Jews go to the Beis HaMikdash, the entire Shekhinah reveals itself in the Beis HaMikdash. But during the time of Galus, we're scattered. We don't have any more central location. And Vishnitz Chassidim daven in Vishnitz Shul. And Babaver Chassidim daven in the Babaver Shul. And the Persian Jews daven in the Persian Shul. And as we said, the Yemenite Jews daven in the Yemenite Shul. And then there's those who daven in the Yeshiva Sheminyan and so on and so forth. Everybody goes to their shul. So you only have some Yidden. You have partial Jews going to the shul. Partial Jews, partial Shekhinah. But this idea that I'm telling you says in Mamare Admor Hazak, Alter Rebbe, Shneur Zalman and Layadi, in a Maimer, two places you can find it on Lekutei Torah, in Parshas V'Zos HaBracha, and also over here in Sefer Tavkuf Samach Vav. The Eibishter says, I'm going to be a small Beis HaMikdash in the lands that they come. These are Bate Knesiyos and Bate Midrashos. They're also called Migdash Ma'at. Why? Because wherever there's 10 Jews, the Shechina comes. Akol, the Gemara says in Masechta Sanhedrin, I think, Akol Bei Asara Shechin Tasharya. Wherever there's 10 Jews, the Shechina dwells. Now, how much Shechina dwells? It's not the entire Shechina, partial. It's enough to knock the socks off of an angel. The Holy Mizritcha Magid, the Tanya, in Sefer HaTanya, in the back in the letters, he brings Shamati Memori. I heard from my teacher, the Holy Mizritcha Magid, that if a malach would walk into a room, or would fly in, malachim don't really walk, they fly, they soar. If a malach would come soaring into a room where are 10 Jews gathered, even if they're not learning Torah, they're just sitting together, hopefully not doing anything bad, but they're not learning Torah, they're saying l'chaim over some cake and mashke, having a little fabringin. As soon as they get together, even if they're not talking divrei Torah, the malach would become electrocuted. Exactly like that, he says. Doesn't say he was electrocuted, but the malach would be burnt by the godly presence that's there. And the only reason he says we're not burnt, even though we are less capacity than malachim. Malachim have a capacity for a much higher voltage than we, and the reason we don't get burnt is because we don't feel. Because of the coarseness of our bodies, we're not tapping into the energy flow that's there. That's what he says. Because there's 10 Jews there. Oh, but he says, why is it only called a Migdash Ma'at? Because when the Beis HaMikdash was standing, the general Shechina was revealed. The Shechina is the source of all Jewish souls. So if we have one central location where all Jewish souls come together, the pasuk says, what's the pasuk? The pasuk says in the base regarding the Beis HaMikdash. The pasuk says, "B'voi kol Yisroel lirois es penei Hashem alekecha b'makom asher yivchar." The place that the Eibishter has chosen, where all the Jewish people come. Since all Jews come there, the entire Shechina goes there. But since he says that during the time of Galus, Yidden are scattered across the world, and we have small little groups of Jews getting together. The Shechina has divided, whatever that means by the Shechina. She divides herself. Derech prat, Medina, in every country, ir, and in every city, there is a snippet of Shechina in every shul. Because since the Shechina is Shoyrem, Masechta Sanhedrin, so therefore the Shechina is there. Once we have that idea, that we're a Shechina present, where Jews are present, it makes sense that as we said earlier, the more Jews, the more Shechina. So we have to look for the shul that has the most Jews coming there. I'm sure it's true. A place where there's a lot of Jews coming, thousands. The Belz shul in Eretz Yisroel, it's got thousands of beautiful, magnificent shul, thousands of Yidden that come there. Big, intense presence of Shechina, without a shadow of a doubt. But is there a place where all Jews come in the time of Galus? Obviously, the answer is no. There is no one place where all Jews. Everybody know the story that whenever, in a shtetl where there is the Yid was alone on the island, and he had 2 shuls over there, and they asked him, and he built up. Baruch Hashem, the guy was able to build himself up in that shtetl, and they asked him about the 2 shuls that were there. He says, "What do you need 2 shuls for? Merely, you're on an island, you're alone." He says, "That's the shul I daven, and that's the shul that I will never step foot into." Every Jew needs a shul that he doesn't go into that shul. In any case, is there a place where all Yidden come together? Well, physically there isn't, but spiritually there is. Why spiritually? Because there is a concept which we discussed many times, and that is the idea of neshama koileles. There is a neshama that is koilel all neshamas of the Jewish people. That's the neshama. We spoke a few weeks ago about Moshe Rabbeinu, the power of das. that he's one of the royim that gives all the Jewish people in. And we spoke that this pashtusa the Moshe b'chol dara v'dara, there is an espashtus of Moshe Rabbeinu in every generation. So there is that neshama that is koilel all nishmas Yisroel. Who is that? The nasi of the generation, the nasi hador, the nasi of the generation, the leader of the generation. He's spirit. He's not just someone who's elected and people like him and they follow him. Spiritually, all neshamas are tied up to his soul. And we spoke many times that all the flow, godly flow, comes through his neshama to every single Jew. I'll share with you an amazing, crazy story. During the time of one of the wars, it wasn't during one of the wars. I'm not sure it was during the wars. A certain general, a certain person came to Yechidus, to the Lubavitcher Rebbe, came to Yechidus. This is it gives me goosebumps when I think about the story. And this person was in charge of all the soldiers that were Nebuch killed. I don't know what exactly he was raising funds. I don't know what exactly his position was within Tzahal, that this was his job, but he was in charge over keeping records on all those that Nebuch were killed in battle or in some kind of operations. So when he came into Yechidus, the Rebbe asked him for the amount of soldiers that passed away that year. And he gave the amount. And the Rebbe corrected him. The Lubavitcher Rebbe corrected him. And I think he told him another two. What's with the other two? And he said, no, he didn't. And then a little while later, he knew the Rebbe said to him, there's another two. So he inquired. Turns out that two people were killed in a quiet operation, a covert. Is it covert? No, I'm saying no, it was a covert operation. There's operations that are done openly, and then the Israelis do lots of things that you don't want anybody to know that they're the ones doing it. And in the course of this, two of their people were killed, and it wasn't part of the records that were on this guy's list. So next time he was by the Rebbe, he asked the Rebbe about it. How did you know? It wasn't even on my list. No one knew. How did you know? And the Rebbe said, "Von dem Zimmer, alle neshamas gehen durch dem Zimmer." And translate from English. All neshamas go through this room. Alle neshamas gehen durch dem Zimmer. All neshamas go through this room. How can I not know? Talking about a nasi hadoyer, kol hadoyer, includes the neshamas of all the generation. So he intrinsically knows. So where is there a place that has all neshamas included? Well, by the way, it's a favorite Rashi. Rashi says in Rashi says in Parshas Chukas that Moshe hu hakoil, v'hakoil hu Moshe, everybody's Moshe, shahanasi hu hakoil. That the Nasi is everybody. So if we say that the Shekhinah dwells amongst the Jewish people all the time, and when all the Jewish people are in Eretz Yisrael and we have a Beis HaMikdash, the Shekhinah dwells in the Beis HaMikdash because all the Jews are in the Beis HaMikdash, or at least they come visit. Every Yid is connected to the Beis HaMikdash. So the Shekhinah is there. During the time of Galus, ve'eya lahem lamigdash ma'at, I will be to them a small Beis HaMikdash. Elu bate knisiyos, that all the shuls bate midrashos. But what does it say? What does Rabbi Elazar say? Ze Beis Rabbeinu sheba Bavel. There is one particular shul, the shul of Rav, the yeshiva of Rav, that stands out. Why does it stand out? So in addition to what I said before, because the Eibishter dwells in Dalet Amashal Halacha, that's where the Eibishter dwells, there is another reason. Because that's the one place where all Jews are present, not physically, but through the neshama of the Nasi, of the leader of the generation, all of the generation, all the Jewish people. And this was something that was known, and it was something that was appreciated in the Chassidic world, going back all the time. that where the Rebbe is, that's the Beis HaMikdash. There's a famous story. Rabbi Wolf Kitzis, one of the students, I think it was with Rabbi Wolf Kitzis. He was one of the disciples of the Holy Baal Shem Tov. He had a tremendous yearning to go up to Eretz Yisrael. But the Baal Shem Tov didn't give him permission to go. And I think he decided he's going without permission. I'm not exact, but upon him, he had a desire. And then, I don't know the whole story, and I was actually looking for it before the Shir, but I wasn't zeicha to find it. Maybe I'll find it, and I'll give you all the particular details. But the general gist of the story is that as he was preparing to go, he went to sleep, and he had a dream. And in the dream was a very vivid dream. He experienced himself traveling and going through all the difficult tribulations, and he finally, meaning completely, wiped out. He arrives to Eretz Yisrael. He makes his way up to Yerushalayim. He's asking directions, for again, way to the Beis HaMikdash. He comes to the Beis HaMikdash. Somehow he gets into the Azara, the Kohanim, the this. He goes in. I don't know how he managed to do that because you're not supposed to go past, but in a dream everything is possible. He goes into the Heichal. And he's not stopping for anything. Once he's here, he's going all the way. And he goes right to the Kodesh HaKadoshim. And as he enters the Kodesh HaKadoshim and he walks in, he sees it's empty. Kodesh HaKadoshim is empty. He's expecting to see the Ara and the Kruvim. And when he asks, what's happening? They said, the Aron is a measure bush. So then he knew that he doesn't have to go to Eretz Yisrael. When the Baal Shem Tov is alive, where is the Aron? Where is Hashras HaShechina? In the Tzaddik's neshama, the one that carries all the Jewish people in his neshama. And that's the meaning of Beis Rabbeinu Sheba Bavel. This is all an explanation, as we said earlier, that every shul is holy. And not just holy, it has Kedushas HaMikdash. But amongst that, there is a central location. Fine. This is step one of what we're going to talk about today. Now step two. When the Geula comes, when Moshiach comes, and it's time for the redemption to happen. And I began today's class and I said to you, where is the action going to be? Where is ground zero? And I mentioned to you earlier that everybody thinks it's in Eretz Yisrael. Not so fast. The Gemara says as follows, again, the same page in Gemara I was mentioning to you, Masechtas Megillah. After the Gemara says that wherever the Jewish people are, the Shechina is with them. So the Gemara says, Va'af kishehem asidim li go'el. Even when they're going to in the future be redeemed, Shechina imohem, the Shechina is with them. That means, not the way we might think, that Jews are in Golus. And a little while before the Jews are leave Golus, and the Shekhinah is with us. But then, as things are wrapping up, the Shekhinah goes to Eretz Yisrael. And the Shekhinah will reveal herself, which means godly revelation is going to erupt in Eretz Yisrael. And then all the Jews are going to come run to Eretz Yisrael because the Shekhinah is in Eretz Yisrael. A mother with her children doesn't leave. God forbid there's a fire burning in a house and you have to escape. A mother is the last one out. She doesn't leave when there's one child, chas v'shalom, left in the house. She's not going to go out until all of her children are out. The captain, the ship's captain, is the last one to leave the boat after everybody gets off. And the same is with exile. The Shekhinah takes full responsibility for exile. And as we know the song, no Jew will be left behind. The Shekhinah will not allow even one Jew to be left behind. That means that the Shekhinah doesn't leave until she takes the very last Jew. That means that till when is the Shekhinah in the Golus, in the diaspora, with the Jewish people? Until the time of the Mamish Geula. And the Shekhinah then, from the Golus, returns to Eretz Yisrael. V'shav Hashem Elokecha ez shavuscha im shavuscha v'heishiv lo nemar elo v'shav. And the words as it's learned, the Mefarshim explain, it means im shavuscha, with the Jewish people the Shekhinah comes out. If that's the case. Says the Lubavitcher Rebbe, as I mentioned to you earlier, I was repeating to you a very special talk that he gave. It says, where is, at the time of the what's going to happen? The Shekhinah is going to reveal herself in the Golus itself, and after the Gilui Shechina of the Golus, the Shechina together with the Jewish people are coming to Eretz Yisrael. But here is something that is just astounding. It's unbelievable. No one would have ever thought about this. When the Shechina reveals herself, she reveals herself together with her nest. The Shechina, for her to be somewhere, always there is a nest for her. Just like when she goes to Golus, she's not just floating in the air. As the Marsha says in the Pasuk, V'samti kisi be'elam. I will place my throne in Elam. The Shechina has a seat, a place. V'samti kisi be'elam. The Shechina has a particular seat. So the Marsha says it means that Gilu Shechina means in a certain place. What's the place for the Shechina during Golus? All the shuls. All the shuls are the place of the Shechina during Golus. What's the place of the Shechina during not Golus? When Shechina removes her veils and she allows her powerful light to suddenly burst open for the whole world to see her unbelievable glowing glory. Where does it happen? It happens in the Golus. If it happens in the Golus, she needs immediately a nest to manifest that greatness. Where is that? In the future Beis HaMikdash. Now, the future Beis HaMikdash, where is it going to be built? In Yerushalayim. So first of all, we have to know that the third Beis HaMikdash, according to Rashi and according to Tosfos, in Masechtes Sukkah, let me read to you Rashi and Tosfos. In Masechtes Sukkah, Daf Mem Aleph. Over here brings sich the Shaila over here, the Beis HaMikdash about when the Gemara is having a whole Shaila about the Omer. And the Gemara says, okay, so it could be if the Beis HaMikdash is then reveals it, if the Beis HaMikdash is built samach l'shkia sachama, next to shkia. So the question is, but you're not allowed to build at night, so how can they build it so fast? So Rashi says, Hana mila binyan abana b'nei adam. That's a binyan that's built by people. Avo migdash ha'asid, the future Beis HaMikdash, she'anu mitzapim, that we are waiting for it. Banu yom meshuchlal hu yigale v'yavay meshamayim. The third Beis HaMikdash is going to descend from heaven. Tosfos says the same thing over here. It comes down built. Okay, we have to know Rambam Paskins in Hilchos Melech and Hilchos Moshiach. Rambam Paskins that Moshiach has to build a Beis HaMikdash. So it's a question: how do you reconcile both? But al kapanim, we're expecting the Beis HaMikdash to come down. Where is it going to come down? So the Rebbe's chiddush over here in this whole talk is that the Beis HaMikdash has to come down immediately at the same moment that the Shechina reveals herself. Because she needs a nest. Where is the Shechina revealing itself? In the place of Golus. So in the very place of Golus where the Shechina is, and where is the primary residence of the Shechina? In all the shuls, but there's one primary place. So at that place is where the third Beis HaMikdash is going to descend, and from there it's going to come back to Eretz Yisrael. No one thinks this way. It's a big, huge chiddush. And he proves it from something else also, the Sanhedrin. The Sanhedrin, the Rambam says in Hilchos Sanhedrin, Perek Yud Dalet, the Rambam says how the Sanhedrin used to be in Eretz Yisrael, and then they went to Golus. The last place the Sanhedrin, the large Sanhedrin, the big Sanhedrin sat, was in Tveria. And from there they were dispersed. So the Rambam says, Misham hem choizrim. That means that the first place there's going to be a Sanhedrin getting together and reenacted Sanhedrin is in the city of Tveria. Why the city of Tveria? Because that's where they dismantled. And that's where they're going to come back again. Similar to that, the Shechina comes back from the Golus, and along with the Shechina comes back the Beis HaMikdash. Now, what exactly does that mean? Is that Beis Hamikdash HaShlishi? That's coming min hashamayim. Is that a complete physical Beis Hamikdash? Rashi and Tosfos doesn't seem like they're talking about a physical structure, because they're saying we don't have to build it at night because it's coming down from heaven. So it's a physical structure coming down from heaven. But it's going to be nizgala according to what we're just learning now. Again, as I said, the different. It's not going to make a difference what people, what our thoughts are. The question is what Torah says. But it's what the Rebbe says. That the Beis Hamikdash is going to reveal itself first, the Makaim of the Shechina in Golus, and from there it's going to return to Eretz Yisrael. But here's another very important thing. Very important. The Gemara on the very same page, Sechtes Megillah Daf Chav Tes. The Gemara says, hear this. Tanya Rabbi Lazar HaKaper Oimer. Rabbi Lazar HaKaper says, Asidin bote knesiyos bote midrashe shebebavel sheyekavu be'eretz Yisrael. That all the shuls of Bavel are going to be established in Eretz Yisrael. You hear this? All the shuls and all yeshivas in the diaspora at the time of Mashiach are going to be uprooted from where they are across the world, and they're going to come to Eretz Yisrael. How do you know that? He brings a pasuk where it says about two mountains, ki katavar baharim u Carmel bayam. Tavar and Carmel. Just like they, you will come like them. V'aloi dvarim kal v'chomer. Here's a kal v'chomer. Ma Tavar v'Carmel. Just like Tavar and Carmel. Shaloi bo'u el l'fishal il matayra. They by Har Sinai, they all came, all the mountains came. So they only came for a short period of time to learn Torah. Nikvayim be'eretz Yisrael, they're going to be established in Eretz Yisrael. Bate knesiyos bate midrashes shekoyrin umarbitzen behem Torah alachas kama v'kama. These are places where you read Torah and we spread Torah, and these shuls, of course they're going to come to Eretz Yisrael. So we have a Feirish Gemara that all shuls are coming to Eretz Yisrael. Says the Holy Marsha. Hear this. The Marsha says that when we say that that means that even though we said the Migdash Ma'at, Beis HaMikdash during the time of Galus, but it's not permanent because the Kedusha goes away from those places, because the Shechina returns to Eretz Yisrael. But when she returns to Eretz Yisrael, she doesn't only redeem the Jewish people, she redeems all the shuls, because all the shuls will also come back. What's going to happen with those shuls they return? Where will they settle? Some in Kfar Saba, some in Netanya, some in Ashkelon, some in, No, that's not what's going to happen. The Marsha says an interesting thing. The Marsha says, the Medrash says, Asida Eretz the Beis HaMikdash, the Beis HaMikdash of the future is going to be, as large as the whole city of Yerushalayim. And the city of Yerushalayim is going to extend to the size of Eretz Yisrael. And Eretz Yisrael is going to be mispashet on the whole world. Chazal tell us. And the Marsha says, why is the Beis HaMikdash going to be the size? Why is the Beis HaMikdash going to be the size of all of Yerushalayim? So the Marsha, look it up. It's Marsha in Mesechtes Megillah Daf Chav Tes. The Marsha says because all the Batei Knesiyos of the diaspora are all going to become connected to the future Beis HaMikdash. The third Beis HaMikdash is going to have attached to it every shul throughout all the places of the world. All shuls are attaching themselves to the Beis HaMikdash. He says an amazing thing. Hear this. There's a pasuk that says, Eden, There's a pasuk that says, Samachti ba'oimrim li. I rejoiced when they said to me, Beis Hashem Nelech. I'm going to the house of God, says the Marsha. What is it referring to? Not to the Beis HaMikdash. It's referring to a Jew living in Poland. So Machti Boimrim Li, he's sitting in this town of Lemberg. He's living in the town of Bialystok. Samachti ba'oimrim li, I'm excited. Ba'oimrim li, when they say to me, Beis Hashem Nelech, I'm going to my shtibel, I'm going to the shul. I'm all excited, wherever it is, across the world. A Jew goes to shul. Why is he happy? Because the pasuk continues, Yerushalayim habenuya ke'ir shechubra lo yachtav. Because the future Yerushalayim that's going to be rebuilt is going to be a city shechubra lo yachtav, which all the shuls across the world, all the Beis Hashems, every single shul is going to attach itself, chubra lo yachtav, it's going to attach itself to the Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi. And therefore, he says, we say also in the pasuk, V'aviyoisem el har kachi, I will bring them to my holy mountain. V'simach them, I will cause them joy. Beveis tfilasi, in my house of prayer. See, the Maharsha says, first of all, Hashem says, I will bring you to my house of prayer. Because the Beis HaMikdash is not only a place that we pray, God also prays in the Beis HaMikdash. The Eibishter davens in the Beis. Hashem davens? Yeah. You find the story with Rabbi Shmuel Kohen Gadol when he went inside to the Kodesh HaKadoshim and he saw Hashem, and Hashem said, give me a bracha. He said, what bracha should I bless you? He said, Sheyichbeshu rachmecha es kascha. The Eibishter says, give me a bracha that my mercy should overpower my anger. And he gave him a bracha. The Eibishter also davens. So beis tfilasi. But then it says, Ki beisi beis tfila yikare l'chol ha'amim. Because my house is going to be a beis tfila, it's going to be called for all the nations. Simply it means that even nations are going to come to Eretz Yisrael. But the Maharsha says, you know what it means, beisi beis tfila l'chol ha'amim? Because my future beis tfila, which is my house, it's going to call l'chol ha'amim, all the nations, because there's going to be attachments to the Beis HaMikdash that is going to be from Morocco. There's going to be attachments in the Beis HaMikdash from Tehran. There's going to be attachments to the Beis HaMikdash from Moscow, from Los Angeles, from London, from Australia, from France, from every town and village where there was and once was a shul of the shul. All these shuls and all these places are going to be attached to the third Beis HaMikdash. So the Beis HaMikdash is going to be made out of Yikarei l'chol ha'amim, from all the nations. And then the Maharsha says something so unbelievably spectacular. So he says, therefore, when you walk into a shul anywhere in the world, you're actually standing in the Makom HaMikdash of the future. That's the coolest thing. When you go to any shul here on Beverly, on La Brea, and you walk into the shul, the place is Admas Kodesh, it's sacred land, because it's going to be attached to the third Beis HaMikdash, which is the third Beis HaMikdash. So you're standing. So when I said earlier, when I was walking in Yerushalayim last week, and I got very close to the Makom HaMikdash, not on the Harabayas, but as close as I've ever gotten, and I was, wow. Well, you're actually now, when I'm giving the class, I'm standing much closer, because I'm standing in the place that is mamish, land of the Beis HaMikdash to Liyasid. Comes the Lubavitch Rebbe and he says, based on this, that itself, that we say that all shuls are going to attach itself to the Beis HaMikdash, which shuls are going to be directly attached to the third Beis HaMikdash, and then connected to them will be all the other shuls. It works through a priority system, the Rebbe says. Those shuls that were the primary Mikdash Ma'at, Rav's shul, Beis Rabbeinu Shebebavel, and so on, all the shuls, the Arizal shul, the Baal Shem Tov shul, all of the shuls that served as the headquarters of where the Shekhinah is as the main Beis HaMikdash during Galus. So when all shuls will connect, these will be like the main connectors, and to them will connect all the other shuls, and so on. Similar to the fact that the Lishkas HaGozes, where the Sanhedrin were, they were attached mamish to the Beis HaMikdash. So will it be with all shuls. So we have over here a fascinating idea. First of all, the Gilui of the Beis HaMikdash, the Lo Asid. And and the Gilui of the Shekhinah and the spectacular revelation. Not so fast like people say it's happening all in Yerushalayim, everybody. No. It's going to take place in both. Now we're in Galus. The Jewish people are everywhere. And you always remember the rule. The Shekhinah is where Roiv Minyan Ubinyan Shel B'nai Yisrael is, where most of the Jewish people are. The Galus, where in the last period of time, the main headquarters of the Jewish people was in America. And therefore the last station of the Shekhinah before Mashiach comes is in America. So the Hizgalos of the Shekhinah at the moment when Mashiach comes, the Hizgalos of the Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi will all be in the headquarters Shemisham Yoitze Hoyrol L'Chol Yisrael. The Rebbe in the Sikha says exactly who he's referring to, where he's referring to. I'll let you all learn the Sikha on your own to get that information. But all of that, it's amazing. It's amazing revelation. And as I told you at the beginning, Kedayahu HaRebbe Lismich Olav, that his words are going to be true, as his record has shown throughout history. By the way, I'm add one more thing. He goes so far and he says that in Hilchos Malachim, the Rambam says, it's fascinating. The Rambam says in Hilchos Malachim that one of the jobs, Mashiach Tzedkenu, in order till he's established as Mashiach, he has to do a few things. He has to influence the Jewish people to keep Torah and mitzvahs. He has to fight the battles of God and be victorious. And he will build the Beis HaMikdash b'mekoymai in his place. Now, what does it mean to build the Beis HaMikdash b'mekoymai? B'mekoymai in Eretz Yisrael. The Rebbe asks a question. Of course, where else are you going to build the Beis HaMikdash? Not b'mekoymai. What does the Rambam have to tell you b'mekoymai? He says, Ula yesh loymar. Maybe we can say that the Rambam is hinting to. He's not learning it in Pshat, but the Rambam is hinting to. That when we say Yivne Beis HaMikdash b'mekoymai, doesn't mean b'makam HaMikdash. That, of course, is going to happen afterwards. What the Rambam means is Yivne Beis HaMikdash, where Mashiach himself is during the time of Galus. B'mekoymai is referring to his place. Because obviously, since Mashiach Tzedkenu is the central soul, it says in Sfarim that every single Jew has a neshama. The chelek alakain mimal in a yid's neshama is called the yechida, the deepest point of your neshama, and that's Mashiach inside of you. What is Mashiach? Every yid has a chelek and nitzutz. Mashiach is the neshama koileles that is koilel all those yechidas. And that's why, according to the Arizal, Mashiach is the highest level of neshama of all of history. Eliyahu Hanavi was the madrega of ruach. David HaMelech was nefesh. Moshe Rabbeinu was neshama. Adam HaRishon was chai. And Mashiach Tzedkenu is yechida. Every Jew has yechida. Mashiach is the one that awakens the yechida in every Jew. He himself is the yechida of all the Jewish people. Therefore, where he is, that's where the Shekhinah is, because he's including all neshamas of all. And therefore, he builds a shul b'mekoymai in his place, where he is, not in Eretz Yisrael. Because like the Gemara says, when they were looking for Mashiach, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, he said, where? He asked Eliyahu Hanavi, where is he? He said, he's sitting by the gate of Rome. And he's sitting amongst the poor. What does it mean, the gate of Rome? Rome represents Churban Beis HaMikdash. Rome means he sits with the Jewish people in Galus, and he's waiting for the Geula with breathless anticipation. In that place, he builds the Beis HaMikdash. He builds a Mikdash Ma'at, which is the hachana for the third Beis HaMikdash, which will reveal itself in that Mikdash Ma'at, and from there it will come to Eretz Yisrael. And what's its job? The job of that Beis HaMikdash is to collect all the shuls. Because from that Beis HaMikdash, light goes out. It's in the diaspora, it's in the Golus. Light goes out. L'kol ha'olam kulai. The Shechina reaches from that Beis HaMikdash. The Shechina reaches all the Mikdash's ma'atz. And when it comes time for the Geula to happen, the Beis HaMikdash reveals itself there, b'mekayim moi of Mashiach Tzidkenu. And from there, it takes all the shuls and it brings them all to the Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi. So Mashiach is coming from Galus. The Shechina reveals itself in Galus. Third Beis HaMikdash reveals itself b'makayim Mashiach in the Galus, and from there it comes to Eretz Yisrael. Unbelievable stuff. He also adds an interesting thing. There's a famous Yalkut Shemaini. It was even turned into a song that people sing. And what does the Yalkut Shemaini say? B'shasha melech HaMashiach ba, the time when Mashiach will come. Oimeid al gag Beis HaMikdash. He stands on the roof of the Beis HaMikdash, Mashmi'a li Yisroel, and he tells the Jewish people the famous words, Anovim, Anovim, Egiaz Mangul Aschem. My humble ones, the time of the redemption has arrived. He asks a simple question. He says, what does it mean that he stands on the roof of the Beis HaMikdash? It can't mean, he says, the third Beis HaMikdash that's already built in Eretz Yisrael. If you have the mosque, the third Beis HaMikdash, you have a mosque there. If that structure is down and you have a third Beis HaMikdash, I need Mashiach to stand on the roof and tell the Jewish people, hello, Anovim, port. My humble ones, the time of your redemption has arrived. The time of your redemption, Mashiach is here already. You have a Beis HaMikdash already. You have, how many? 3, I don't know how many billion Muslims in the world. And the fact that you were able to take down that structure over there and have a third Beis HaMikdash, obviously Mashiach is here already. That couldn't have happened without Mashiach being here. Mashiach doesn't have to tell you Egiaz Mangul Aschem. So the Rebbe says, name. When it says that Mashiach stands on the roof of the Beis HaMikdash, it's not referring to that Beis HaMikdash. It's referring to the Beis HaMikdash that's in Chutz Li'aretz. It's referring to the Mikdash Ma'at that will be the place of the third Beis HaMikdash. And that's why he's medayik. It says, Al Gag Beis HaMikdash, on the roof of the Beis HaMikdash. Because and we know, Gagin Lo Neskachu, the rooftops of the temple never became holy. That's why it's emphasizing that he's standing on the roof, meaning in a Beis HaMikdash that doesn't have Kedushas HaMikdash. And from that place, Mashiach tells the Jewish people, Higiaz Mangul Aschem, the time of your redemption has arrived. Get ready. That means that the Jewish people don't see it yet. No one sees it. Everybody is still busy doing their things. We're still working. We're still doing, everybody's ishtachas gafnoi. People are thinking about making millions, and people are thinking about traveling the world, and people are thinking all them are shagas. And Mashiach Tzidkenu tells us, Higiaz Mangul Aschem, way before the Geula comes. And where is he telling it from us? From Gag Beis HaMikdash, from his shul. Which is what? Gag, the reason why it says Gag is because Gag in Lo Neskachu. And from that place, we're told that the time of redemption has arrived, and it's our job to prepare so that we can greet Mashiach Tzidkenu, the Karev Mamish, very, very soon. And then every single shul will connect itself through all those main central shuls that we spoke about throughout the generations, who will be first attached to the Beis HaMikdash. All other shuls will attach around them. I'm sure it's going to be done in a very architectural way that's going to look nice, or else the thing is going to look very lopsided, chas v'sholem, if you're thinking about just attaching everything together over there. Obviously, Yerushalayim is Yefei Noif Mesayis Kol Haaretz. It's got to be beautiful. So somehow the Eibishter, in his unbelievable wisdom, is going to figure out how to connect them all, that they're just going to be a spectacular work of art. And Be'ezus Hashem, we're going to all be in the third Beis HaMikdash. May we see it now, and now.